So this is going to be my most ridiculous comparison ever, an iPhone 6s versus an iPhone 11. Obviously, this phone's better, but I want to talk about my experience with this phone the last week or so versus my experience with this phone for the last couple months or so, and why I'm probably ultimately going to be switching back to this device. So obviously, iPhones have been around for an extended period of time, and we've all become so used to having them, and we've given up our whole souls to these little devices and these little creatures that we call phones, and we don't really understand how much time we spend on our phones until we start to look at it and think, wow, that's a lot of time. And that's why I liked so much about the iPhone 6s, is that it was so bad in a way that it wasn't like unusable. It was very imperfect. And that's because it's like an 8-year-old phone. I mean, it's old. But I used it for 2 months, and I will probably continue using it. So I like it. I also cracked the screen out, which is sad. I just did that like a couple days ago. So there are obviously some stark differences between these phones. The first one and the biggest one for me is always going to be the camera. I am a video photo person. Obviously, I make YouTube videos. I also have a wedding business. I also have a family that I want to take pictures of. And being able to shoot good, high-quality videos and photos are important to me. And that is something you sacrifice with the iPhone 6s. You just aren't going to get very good video or photo. Although I will say something interesting is that bad video is kind of making a comeback. It seems like people are less obsessed with 4K, 120 frames per second than they are with a more interesting and creative look. But you are going to get a worse look with this phone because it's just a worse camera. The front and back camera. The front camera is terrible, but most front cameras, comparing this front camera to the iPhone 11 front camera, they're actually somewhat a little bit more comparable, but the rear cameras are not even close. The 11 blows it out of the water. So I would say that if you're a big photographer, but you're more about capturing the moment as opposed to capturing the moment and making it look good, then I think you could definitely still get away with the 6S's camera, which is how I view anything. Just capture the moment. I don't really care what it looks like. Within reason, I'm not going to take a picture where it's like 15 total pixels, a 5x3 picture. So that's something that you personally have to decide for yourself. The next thing is obviously the speakers. And this is a tough one because I would say that you should probably try to avoid using speakers because that means you're listening to something, unless it's an audiobook, potentially a podcast, or I would say music's it's okay. You're going to need headphones if you're using the iPhone 6s. You're just not going to be able to listen very much. And if you do, you're going to have to do the old hand cup and put it like really close to your face if you ever actually want to use this device to listen to content, engage with content, which is, I think, a good thing. Again, I don't think people should be using their phones as much as they do. But if you are somebody that is a big content person and for some reason you're deciding between the two phones, I would suggest going with the 11, but I would also suggest maybe understand how much you're engaging with your phone. The next thing to point out would be the safety and security features. Obviously, the iPhone 6s is thumbprint and the iPhone 11 is Face ID. I don't know which one I like better. I've used both. I think I lean towards thumbprint. I think the idea of whipping on my phone and casually just not being able to look at it and just having it unlocked is kind of nice. But there are a lot of times when it's kind of a pain in the butt when you can't access the thumbprint. You can't get into the phone. So when I'm using my drone, I can't get into the phone. I have to unlock it first. Whereas with this phone, it's kind of the same problem. I have to unlock it first with the Face ID because then the Face ID gets covered. I would prefer the thumbprint over Face ID, but Face ID is a more refined thumbprint in my opinion. I guess I just kind of like being able to, it's kind of like 601. Like you could do either or. It's not like your life's going to change if you have to use thumbprint or Face ID. There are definitely advantages with both. I think Face ID is safer and potentially can add more features to your phone like the memojis or whatever to make the faces. Never used that once though. You're paying a premium for a feature that you probably don't really need. The next thing to notice is obviously the iPhone 11, glass back, glass front. It is wireless charging. I don't use wireless charging ever, so I don't care about wireless charging. I've never used it. I don't know if I've ever used it once in my whole life. Maybe once. I got a free Samsung charger when I bought an old Note years ago, but I don't really care. There are a lot of things about the iPhone 11 I think a lot of people might care about having specific features, but I think that you should try and not buy a phone for features, but just buy a phone for functionality, and don't buy a phone that will entice you to use it more, because there's nothing on the phone that can entice you to do it more that will better you as a person. I would say maybe in the off chance you'll listen to more books potentially, but the vast majority of the time you're just going to be wasting your time scrolling on TikTok watching stupid videos and wasting your life away. With that thought in mind, that this is a tool. I use the phone doesn't use me. I own the phone doesn't own me. So that's why I really like the 6S, because I feel like I own the phone. Whereas the 11 is so spectacular. It really is a great phone still. It's remarkable how well these phones hold up. At the end of the day, if you want something that's going to have longer support and be a better phone overall, obviously get the 11. I mean, you know that. But if you're somebody that's trying to take control of your life and you still need iMessage, you want iMessage, I would consider getting the iPhone 6S. I got an update for it like a couple days ago. So they're still updating the phone, which is pretty remarkable. So that's my final verdict. Obviously, the iPhone 11 is way better. It still holds up. It's 4 years old, still a remarkable device. However, if you're somebody that wants to manage your phone usage, get the iPhone 6S. Thank you for watching the video. I will see you in the next one. This has been Scott with Techno Eclipse. Peace out.